The House will come to order. Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order is on your desk, and it's also available online. If there is no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Second reading of Senate files.
Second reading Senate file number 3307.
Second reading. Messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce that the Senate has concurred in and adopted the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File number 2934. The Senate has repassed said bill in accordance with the recommendation report of the Conference Committee. The message is signed Thomas S. Bodern, Secretary of the Senate. Conference Committee report on Senate File number 2934, an act relating to human services. The report is addressed to the Honorable Bobby Joe Champion, President of the Senate, the Honorable Melissa Hoffman, Speaker of the House. We, the undersigned conferees for Senate File number 2934, report that we've agreed upon the items in dispute and recommend as follows. The report is signed by 2 of the 3 members on the part of the Senate and 2 of the 3 members on the part of the House. Noor moves that the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File number 2934 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
I recognize the maker of the motion, the member from Hennepin, Representative Noor, to explain the report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. What you have before you today is a transformative, a historical investment, a generational investment. Members, we had a good bill, but coming back from the conference, we have a great bill that addresses the needs of many Minnesotans, particularly those who are disabled and elderly individuals. When we started, we had that historic investment in the PCA. We kept on adding additional items. We now have coverage for CDCS, which was 40 hours. It's now up to 80 hours. We also included parents and spouse to care for their loved ones, which we didn't have at the beginning. Members, when we also adopted the ICFDD, it was 260, which was from 148 for many of the facilities across the state. We now have 275 for Class A and 316 for Class B with additional $40 plus inflation. Members, the biggest change in this bill is when we left with the bill from the House, it was only $20 million investment in nursing facilities. We now have $100 million investment in the nursing facility, with also $90 million for workforce incentive. This is an amazing resources that are needed to support those who need the most. We also had from the other side that we needed to provide resources for the transportation, and we did. The other good news is, for the first time, TEFRA fees are now eliminated from the state of Minnesota. It's a great news for many families who are paying this fee. We also eliminated in this bill, by coming back from the conference committee, the MAAPD assets, which we've had from many individuals who came before us. Members, this is a great bill, and I ask for your support. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Members, before I proceed on discussion to the motion to adopt the conference report for Senate File 2934, I would like to recognize the presence of former State Representative Steve Wenzel, who's in the alcove. He served from 1973 to 2001. Members, please join me in welcoming back former Representative Wenzel to the chamber. Is there any further discussion on the Conference Committee report for Senate File 2934? I recognize the member from Candy, Ohio, Representative Baker.
Mr. Speaker and members, I wanted to take a moment to thank Chair Noor and Representative Fisher for working so well with me on some really important stuff in this bill. This is a bill that, again, as I mentioned to Chair Noor in this one, that I desperately wanted to bring back a bill that I wanted to have my colleagues vote green on this thing. Like what I had seen in the other body, there was a lot of bipartisan support for this because, again, in the other body, they had a lot of money that was not encumbered for nursing homes. If you recall, early in the session, that was one of our very main and top priorities here for the minority, was don't forget our nursing homes. In the end, it didn't turn out at all like I had hoped, but what I am frustrated with the process, members, and I'm angry because I don't feel heard, that did not happen here. I just want to say thank you to the members of the conference committee. I want to thank the Speaker for allowing me to serve. Our lead, Representative New Brindley, could have had that role, but I kind of was hoping that I was able to help out with some of the opioid work and some of the substance use disorder that we did, and we did really well in that part of the bill. So I just want to make that comment. I'm looking forward to hearing more thoughts on this, members, but as far as the process went, when I see a win and when I see it worked well, I want to say that publicly. This one was at least a period of time that all conferees worked really well together. We tried to hold the bill open as long as we could to try to find some magic, to try to make it better. And I know that the hearts and the goals were shared by all members of the conference committee to do the best we could in all areas, because there are some good parts about this bill. And again, I look forward to hearing more tonight. And again, thanks for allowing me to serve on this committee. Thanks.
Is there any further discussion? I recognize the member from Polk, Representative Keel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I've been active in the nursing home care for quite a bit. And while true that human services is a huge, huge conversation, whether we're talking about the young, helping our mothers, working on people that are disabled, that needs assistance. I can't imagine, just in the short time I was in the hospital, I can't imagine being stuck waiting for someone to help get me dressed or get me up to go somewhere. It still happened. The nurse forgot. Eventually they showed up. But I just can't imagine being disabled and having those troubles. And human services is really important when we take care of people that are struggling with disabilities. And they still are a valuable part of our society and really important. And then we go to the people that are older. My district is more of an aging district, and nursing homes have always been, as many of you know, very important to me. I think it is a dignity we need to give to every society member, every elderly person who has worked hard in Minnesota, has donated to, paid taxes to the system, and expected some care, and those are important. After 6-8 years of working on nursing home issues, I'm disappointed that I believe this bill says, well, they can get a loan. I don't know about anybody else in this place, but let's talk about a nursing home that is barely meeting ends, and we're going to tell you, oh, go get a loan from the government. We're actually going to borrow people money. I can't go to the bank and say that. Hey, I'm behind 2 years, 3 years in farming. They aren't going to go, oh, sure, no problem. You can't do that. Why would we do that to our nursing homes? And folks, an average person in the nursing home, it costs $100,000 average to care for someone who needs to be in the nursing home. They need a huge amount of care, whether they can't eat, or they can't go to the bathroom, or they can't walk, or they need some daily activities of living. It is so important that we serve them and help make their possibilities. You know, I just don't understand why this is so hard to do. Why our members in this House, especially the Democrats, do not understand why we need to take care of our nursing homes. I myself have lost 2 nursing homes in Polk County in the last month, and they aren't the only ones that say, Deb, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. COVID didn't help us. The diseases that happened at that point, the pandemic that happened, the challenges to make sure that the nurses could care for people. I've got a couple of nursing homes that the National Guard came and rescued. Polk County Nursing Service showed up to do whatever they could. One wasn't even a nurse. She says, I don't know. I can serve food. I can help somebody eat. But they were in such trouble with what needed to happen because of both the pandemic, but also the issue of hiring people. And yes, I can't produce nurses in a quick hurry, whether they're RNs, LPNs, or CNAs. And CNAs need to be trained, and they are a huge part of nursing homes. The work that has to be done in nursing homes is so important. And CNAs are what make elderly comfortable, happy. Know who George is when he needs help and how he likes it done. Or how Sarah likes certain foods. Those are important things, and CNAs know those things. And I know we have some challenges, and there are some things in the bill that will help with that. But it isn't just anybody that can go in a nursing home and do those jobs. It just is a reality. You have to be there. You have to be able to be compassionate and care for somebody. And I just, once again, am just so disappointed that we can't see that this is important. This is as important as making sure our children can read and write. Because by golly, those nurses are going to take care of my chart when I'm in the nursing home. I expect they need to know how to read. Why is it important? That we need to know our services are there, that they are able to do them. And it is just, I just can't state it enough. I just cannot believe that we worked on this 6-8 years and we cannot see the importance. I just wonder how many of you have ever worked in a nursing home, have ever fed somebody that has to be slowly fed, wash their face, make sure they're happy, the care, the holding of someone's hand. It's just so important. And end of life can be a tough portion of our life. But as I emphasize this issue, I hope that we look past this. I'm in the stage of life, I'm the sandwich, my kids are grown up, my parents are elderly, they're starting to need more and more help. And it is not an easy thing. But they deserve the dignity that the family can help with and that nurses can help with when we need to have that help. And I am so appreciative of my nurses for what they do, how they are there, how they care for somebody. And I just feel like our nursing homes in specific, the nurses do not think they're appreciated. People do not understand what needs to go on, how you need to take care of somebody, and we need to be able to finance them. And 18 months later, short funds, it's going to be a problem. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. I just hope that we can reconsider what we're doing here and we can stabilize our nursing homes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion to adopt the Conference Committee report on Senate File 2934, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say no. No. The Motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by conference.
Third reading, Senate File Number 2934, as amended by conference.
Third reading as amended by conference. Discussion to the repassage of Senate File 2934 is amended by conference. I recognize the member from Traverse, Representative Backer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. First of all, just like Representative Baker, I do enjoy working with Representative Fisher and Representative Noor. You can approach them, you can talk to them, and I appreciate that. We may not always agree, but at the same time, we can persuade and talk and be professional about it, so thank you. There is a lot of good things in this bill, but the good, unfortunately, does not outweigh the bad, and that has to do with nursing homes. This is from a nursing home administrator. You can tell them to keep their current solution as it's not at all helpful. I am so disappointed. That's a recent text. Providing $100 million for nursing home loan program for distressed nursing homes. We're abandoning our seniors, members. We're abandoning our seniors. We have nearly an $18 billion surplus. We're abandoning them. Over the last, it'll be this June, 29 years, I have had runs probably every single month to the Browns Valley Health Center and also Graceville Nursing Home. I am fortunate, I call it fortunate, to see several of those individuals for their final run in the ambulance. I remember one time, it was back in the late 90s, was one of my teachers. She was not that old, especially when you're in your 50s now. But no, I mean, these individuals, they need our help. You know, since 2021, we have had 15 nursing homes that close. I mean this nicely, but folks, you can't put them in front of the TV and have them play video games. It don't work with that generation. They need that proper care, and Representative Keel talked about that. This is why it was 3 weeks ago today at 6:30, I had to run to the nursing home. It was a victim choking on food. Very similar situation that we had last night. But this one did not turn out as good. I did not know her. She was from a community next door, but I did the Heimlich maneuver, did everything I could. It was a little too late. We raced to the hospital. Did not know her, but of course, did that run affect me? Yeah. There are many times that I've gone to the nursing home in the middle of the night, and I know these folks, of course, as several of us members on this side of the aisle and on the other side, but especially me, I know their families. And afterwards, I get texts. People stop at my home and says, you know, Jeff, thank you so much for giving them that care for their final hours. Thank you so much. And I'm just in their lives for a little bit. I mean, really, not even that much. Nursing homes are in there, people can be in the nursing home for 1 month to 10 years. I had a neighbor of mine just this week passed away, and she turned 102 and went in the nursing home 10 years ago. And she was not been able to live that long without that proper care from the nursing homes. It's not an easy position. I know there's times that we come in during the day, but especially at night, that we have not enough staff to get them on the stretcher. We do end up figuring it out. Never have hurt myself, but it is very difficult. We are not, I remember at the beginning, back 29 years ago when I went into the nursing homes, that they would have them ready. They would get them on the stretcher. We would then take them to the ambulance. That is no longer the case. There's only 2 staff members on. There are times that we have to call assistance from other crew members who just show up to help out. These people deserve better than a $100 million loan program. I mean, we need to say these people, our seniors, are number one. They are. They're our parents. They're our grandparents. They're the ones that have worked for us for so hard. So I'm, even though there's good things in this bill, Representative Fisher and Norris, good things, Noor, excuse me, this nursing home thing is just too much to overcome for me. So I'm going to ask for a red vote. Would love to see it go back to the conference committee. And I appreciate Representative Baker. His heart is where my heart is on this. I've helped so many seniors in the 29 years. And when I heard a $100 million loan program, I was very, extremely challenged and frustrated because I have seen seniors in their eyes. I have held their hand like the last run during their last breath. I've been there, members. Seniors deserve better, and this bill does not do what we need to do for our seniors. Thank you, members. Vote no, please.
Further discussion on the repassage of Senate File 2934 as amended by conference. I recognize the member from Wright, Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would Chair Noor yield to a question, please?
He will yield to a question. Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Chair Noor, it's always dangerous to ask a question that you don't already know the answer to, but would you happen to know off the top of your head how much money is appropriated in your bill that's going to be granted to nonprofits?
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Noor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What I can tell you in this bill, in the conversation we're having right now, we're providing resources directly to the providers. I think the question about nonprofits, there isn't much in this bill that provides nonprofit resources in the bill.
Representative Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chair Noor. That's good to hear. I certainly know from my work on other committees, children, families, public safety, that millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars are being granted to nonprofits. This session didn't have the time to add it up coming into this discussion, but I imagine that number would be rather alarming. And often this occurs with little to no oversight, little to no requirements for meaningful reporting. To the extent that there is reporting, it's usually, or at least in my experience, what I've seen in bills, criteria that's crafted by the grantees themselves to determine whether or not they're providing the service that's expected by the legislature. And that's an interesting contrast to what we're doing for nursing homes in this bill. $100 million for a nursing home loan program. Unforgivable loans that really, in effect, don't do anything for nursing homes whatsoever. 46 million to nonprofits in this bill. Is that what I'm to understand? Okay, that's what I'm being told. By contrast, and of course, that money is not an unforgivable loan. That's just money out the door, goes to the nonprofits. They get to spend it, no questions asked. By contrast, again, unforgivable loans to nursing homes, which might as well be nothing whatsoever, because these nursing homes are in tight financial straits to start with. Many of them are leveraged to the brink as it stands. And the idea that they're going to be able to take on additional debt when they're already on the brink of financial collapse is, well, frankly, laughable. And so that's one of the reasons why I'll be voting no on this, and I wish we could have done better.
Further discussion to the repassage of Senate File Number 2934 is amended in conference. I recognize the member from St. Louis, Representative Zalesnikar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Noor. This session has been interesting, but I have also respected working with Representative Noor on this. I've spent my life, as most of you know, caring for seniors and a lot of family members, and seen the impacts of child care in rural Minnesota, because most of the people that I've worked with have been families in childbearing years, and so it's a continuum of care for many people in nursing homes. It's partnerships with the schools, it's partnerships with the community for education, it's partnerships with the community for volunteering, with the churches, and for me, my biggest concern is the nursing home part, because I've shared with all of you that I love the things that it's doing for the disabilities. I visited the group homes in many communities in the last 5 months, and nursing homes, and this continuum has so many spokes on the wheel, and they're all really, really critical at the same time. And that I say that we went in this with $800 million, I think, and it's now to $400 million. And it is literally trying to find money in ways where people's lives are going to be very severely affected. How do you pick the children with disability who need a PCA to come in their home? Which choice do you axe out? So to Representative Noor's challenges, I can see the dilemma, because I visited with the parents who have to have care come into their home. I've been to the group homes. I'm familiar with the level of care they're doing, and I've seen it firsthand. And I worked it all through COVID, and I've been in this since 1983. I haven't left the field until now. And so the piece of this, home care is great. The piece of adjusting the elderly waiver rates is great. The piece of adding non-emergency transportation is great. All of these things, the problem here is this loan program that got put in here. It just isn't, having been in the operations and seen it, I'm sure to people it's sticker shock. They think everybody must just be rolling in cash that runs nursing homes. But the fact of the matter is that that's just not the case. Care is $12,000 probably, and it can be more a month. But the reality is that 70% of those 70% of the costs right now are labor. And that's if everything goes well. And as you all know, when you're short-staffed, they have to get people from agencies from other states, pay the housing, pay the flight, pay the travel, pay the housing, all this. So the costs have been severely affected for the operations, because nobody wants to work double shifts. You could give them triple time, quadruple time, 10 times. At some point, money doesn't matter when you're burnt out. Money doesn't matter at some point. They need it. But if you don't have, you need bodies, and you need to create an atmosphere where people can do it. And so the rate structure that we're talking about continually, that we're expecting, I think, I keep hearing forecasted between federal and state, I think it's $850 million. The reality is that facilities are waiting for money from costs they incurred 18 months ago. And that's the thing I just want you all to hear. And I'm really praying, I'm just going to be honest, every night, that we can figure out how to get money for the nursing homes in a one-time way to stabilize them, because I know there's a lot of language in these studies and different things, and we have a lot of work to do on figuring out reimbursement on the assisted living side and the nursing home side long term. But the nursing homes can't be the spoke out of the wheel, because it's the only place we right now have nurses 24 hours a day. So I'm recommending the repassage of, that we adopt this conference committee. I appreciate what you have done for non-emergency transportation because the hospitals understand that that's going to help them, and it truly will. But we have to keep the model. We cannot just create a new model overnight. And it's a very complicated model. And, in the time that the facilities have been carrying this money, the food costs have went through the roof. We're doing some things with property taxes, and I'm not sure how that'll affect the facilities, but the for-profits pay property taxes that fund the schools, fund the police, fund the fire, which is all great. But all of the costs have went up for everybody. And so the margins just aren't there. And so they need to be able to pay rates that we thought were unheard of. I remember when we thought we were going to get to minimum wage of $15. McDonald's is 17, Quick Trip's 18. So, we can't be paying those type of prices for the heaviest of care, and the heaviest of care is the nursing home. And so I reference the things of choices because we have a $20 billion surplus this year with multiple people needing needs. So when I speak, it's not in disrespect. I don't hate trains. I love all that stuff. But it's just not the time to spend $146 million on a new train to Duluth, and I'm up there. It's not. We have to know that we've taken care of the people that built this state first. I'm getting asked this all the time. Why would we do this now? It's not that it's a bad idea, but why now? Why are we looking at $1.7 billion to do the Paid Family Leave Act if there's a way we can do it without using that money with the insurances? And I can't answer that because that's over $2 billion money that is being used in other ways. So to the point that we need to have these things done is critical. It's not just my story, it's all of your story too, because we all have older people. This bill helps the critical access nursing homes. It will help many of them, 15 in the state, but they're 15 of the 300. We have to close the gap for the rest. I know nobody wants to do it. I know it's expensive, but it will be more expensive if everybody's in the emergency room at the hospital because that's the only backup plan that will exist, and that's not a good backup plan. The dementia residents become very agitated when the only plan is to continually call 911. And anybody that runs ambulance services knows that sending them to ER and having them there, the hospital doctors do not have time to sit one-on-one with a dementia resident. And the more we keep sending them in, because we don't have facilities open, they're going to, because the law says if there's a change of condition and you don't have a nurse to do an assessment, guess who's going to be out of compliance? The facility staff, the nursing home administrator, the director of nursing, the nurse on site. You can't take that risk. So everybody just calls 911 in the community, at the assisted living, at the nursing home. We have to have this model in place. So I urge you, and I'm really going to hope that something's going to happen. I'm praying for a miracle before Monday at midnight or Tuesday morning at 6, whenever the last minute is, because we cannot leave this session and look at the American people that live in Minnesota. These people have sacrificed. These people are the people that actually did take a bath once a week. They can do it. None of you are going to like that model when you get old because you're used to having a lifestyle that is much different than the people I've taken care of the last 40 years. They grew up with 11 children in a family. They grew up with no indoor plumbing. They can handle that having a bath once a week. But guess what? I don't think anybody in here is ready for that. And if we don't fix this, there's not going to be care for anybody. And your homes are probably not ready to take care of them because they're living to 113 now. I mean, just look in the paper. It's new records every day. And it's not easy. So I'm going to hope for the best. I'm going to be voting yes for this and trust that there is going to be a possibility for hope for the nursing homes. I've done the best. I've sounded the alarm to the state of Minnesota, but I am one vote and I am one person. But there's a collective body here and in the Senate, and we're going to have to go back in the grocery stores, and you're going to have to answer to the people because there is no reason with a $20 billion surplus that we're not fixing this year and giving them an olive branch to keep them open we won't have a good answer. So thank you, Representative Noor, for working to get the things that you did get in there. And I hope between the Senate and House we can figure out solutions. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Members, due to the noise that is happening outside of the chambers pursuant to Rule 701, I will ask that members use the side or retiring room doors to enter and exit the chambers, and I would direct the Sergeant-at-Arms and her team to encourage members exiting and entering the chambers to do the same. Further discussion on the repassage of Senate File 2934 as amended by conference. I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Nadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, Representative Noor. You had a tough job. There's some good things in this bill. You mentioned, the workforce incentives, the loan, the no TEFRA fees. You left out the money that we put in for supported decision-making grants. You left out money that Minnesota Adult and Teen Challenge uses, one of the most effective recovery programs in the state. There's some good things in this bill. The sad part about this bill is that Governor, I think the governor is leaving the elderly behind in this bill. I think that via nursing homes, and we're going to talk about nursing homes all day, and this side is going to continue to push and hope and pray that we're going to find some money to basically help those nursing homes that, in the last 6 months, denials have been up 44% in nursing homes. 2,597 nursing home beds are no longer in service. 15 nursing homes have closed since 2021. We've got hospitals and counties that are helping nursing homes more than this body. And while I appreciate that you probably had to find some middle ground with this loan, I manage some contracts for nonprofit direct service providers. And Representative Hudson, just so that you know, most of the money in this bill, this is reimbursement. This is basically mostly reimbursement to the service provision that people provide to elderly, to disabled. And one of the good things in this bill is that we did buy down a little bit of inflation in the DWRS. And that's a very complicated thing, but that's how most of our direct service providers get paid. And so that was another small, good thing. I mean, I was hoping that we could, buy a year, maybe, or 6 months, buy more than what we got. But, we're moving in the right direction, and that I appreciate. I really do. But our nursing homes, I don't think they're going to be able to utilize, at least, the smaller ones, the ones that are really in a critical place. They've already exhausted their resources. They've closed wings, they've lost beds, they've lost people, and it's because they can't pay. They actually can't pay. You can go someplace else and make more money. People aren't, and this is a population, members, that it takes a special heart to serve those people. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I don't have the patience. I don't have the kindness. But I wouldn't celebrate what I consider a non-functional loan program to a critical industry that's failing because we don't prioritize it. Yesterday, we voted for more than $100 million to build a new cannabis office. $100 million. That was a priority. That was a priority of this body. And we can go down the list, and the elderly are just not a priority in this legislative cycle. And that's what I feel bad. That's what I feel bad about. There's a couple other things. I'm glad that we were able to find some money for non-emergency medical transportation. Does it go as far as where it needs to go? Probably not. But again, it wasn't a priority. It's not a priority of this session. I'm not going to talk about teachers anymore, but they weren't a priority this session either, and I'm hoping to see some relief come with that. More than 350 nursing homes are on the ropes right now, and it's because of chronic underfunding. It's because of COVID. 10% are thinking about closing their doors. More than half have tapped all their resources. And this is, but we're gonna throw a lifeline out to them and say, you know what? Borrow some more money, and we're going to get DHS to do a nursing. We're going to do a nursing study, and hopefully, I didn't look in the bill to see how long it's going to take, but hopefully it only takes a month or so. I mean, all they've got to do is go interview a few nursing home administrators, and we'll find out what the problems are. It's not tough. Visit your nursing homes, guys. So. I'm at a conflict where there's a number of important things that this bill funds. And I want to vote for those things, but I don't know how to do it without condemning the things that frighten me about the lack of focus and following the governor's lead, honestly, and leaving our elderly behind. How do I do that? I have a friend who's a pretty strong Democrat, and she always tells me that doing something is always better than doing nothing. I don't often buy into that, but on this one I might have to, because we need our nonprofit service providers to be able to deliver services. And right now, setting the nursing homes aside, they're failing too. And at least this brings a little relief. A little. I wish we could, anyway, thank you, Representative Noor. I know that you had tough negotiations with the Senate. I know that that you guys didn't align on everything. I think that you did your best, and hopefully I'll be able to, hopefully doing something is better than nothing. And like my friend, Representative Zalesnikar, we do have a lot of time between the end of session. And I'm hoping that we can dig deep and we can look hard, and you'll get tired of us talking about nursing homes and nursing facilities and the lack of commitment to them, and we'll come up with something. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion on the repassage of the Conference Committee report of Senate File 2934. I recognize the member from Pope, Representative Anderson.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker and members. A loan program. A loan program. When I first heard that, I thought it was a joke. And we've all heard about the numbers of our surplus. I won't repeat that, though it's what, 19 billion. And the best we can come up with for nursing homes is a loan program. Again, it's just amazing, shocking, and leaves me wondering. Sometimes I think that we maybe think of nursing homes as a building or just a business, but nursing homes are families, they're people. People that live there and people that work there in nursing homes. I think I've mentioned before, my mother-in-law, 94 years old, bless her heart, is in a nursing home back in Starbuck, and she's doing really well there. A big reason for that is the people that work there. They're just amazing people. the work they put in, the extra effort they put in, the extra shifts they put in when they're short-staffed, things like that. And they could go out and make as much money or more at McDonald's or whatever, but they feel a calling. And the people that work with our elderly in our nursing homes are saints. They're just wonderful people. And I think sometimes we forget that. And we look at these things as buildings that will give them a little help, little support. But we're talking about people. We're talking about people that take care of people. Our loved ones, our mothers and fathers and our elderly. And we should do better. We obviously should do better. I know it's late. The days are clicking down. But somehow, some way, like the others here who have expressed their thoughts and hopes and prayers, that a miracle of some kind can happen in these next couple of days, and we can find some substantial help for our nursing homes in Minnesota. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further discussion on the repassage of Senate File 2934 as amended by conference. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Scott.
Thank you, Speaker Walgamot. And I don't normally speak on these health and human services issues, but I felt compelled today to tell you a little bit about my grandma on my dad's side. But before I do that, you know, I used to represent part of Coon Rapids, and recently one of the Camilla Rose facilities there had to shut down their skilled nursing facility and convert it to an assisted living, which would house far fewer residents, and of course it wouldn't require near the staff. So this is hitting close to home up in the northern metro for me. And I know Representative Newton and Representative Stevenson, you represent parts of Coon Rapids, and know that Camilla Rose is a household name up there, and you know how important those facilities are to our community. But I wanted to talk a little bit about my grandma on my dad's side. And my dad had 4 siblings, and they lived in rural Iowa on a farm. They were very poor. My dad did not have running water the entire time he was in high school. They got that after he was out of high school. They had 1 bicycle that the 5 kids shared. My grandma and grandpa, so they didn't have a lot. In fact, I remember my grandma having a wringer washer, and of those 5 kids, there were 2 sets of twins. And can you imagine living on a farm with no running water, no microwave oven, none of that, with 5 kids, 4 of which were 2 sets of twins. And I remember just great times at my grandparents' house. There were several of us cousins, and we would go out to Grandma and Grandpa's almost every Sunday after church for dinner. And I know it was a strain on them to feed all of us, but it was what they lived for, particularly my grandma. And she was known for her oven-baked fried chicken. And if you only ate 1 piece of chicken or just had 1 helping of green beans, she was not happy about that. She was constantly trying to push more food upon you. And she lived for her grandkids and her children. And after dinner, after Sunday dinner, she would sit down with the kids and play cards or board games. One of the things we played often was the game of Rook. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that, but we played that game a lot. And just so many great times on the farm and with my grandparents. And sometimes as a kid, you don't really appreciate that until you get a little bit older. And then you look back and realize how valuable that was. You know, my kids didn't grow up close to their grandparents. So they didn't get to experience all that. And I regret that sometimes, and it's the world that we live in. You know, as a town of 1,700 people, there weren't a lot of jobs there, and but I'm really thankful for my upbringing. But when I was in late high school, my grandmother had a severe stroke, and it left her bedridden in a nursing home. I think it was around 5 years. I don't remember exactly. It might not have been that long, but her face was fairly contorted. She tried to speak, had very difficult time speaking, had to be tube fed, but yet she would still get choked on her own saliva. And just, as you can imagine, someone's just 100% dependent on the care of somebody else. And the people that worked in that nursing home and cared for her developed a relationship with her, and that was so important to her and important to the family. And my dad and four of the 5 siblings lived really close into town, and they would go visit my grandmother often. In fact, my dad would go over his lunchtime or after work every single day to go out and visit Grandma and his mom. And I remember when I would come home from college, I'd go out to visit her, and she would cry when I came into the room. She cared so much for her family. And, you know, my grandma was also very fortunate that she had those kids that lived nearby that loved her so much and took time to come and visit her almost daily. And I think a lot of families don't have that today. They don't have family living nearby. So these people that work in our nursing homes are so essential. They're so essential, and they don't get paid enough. And, you know, there's a lot of talk around here about nursing home funding, but I want to remind us all who that funding would help. And that's the people that work in the nursing homes, that care for people like my grandmother, who had a stroke, totally bedridden, these people that bathe and change them, the people that help them when they're choking on their own saliva. These people are angels, in my opinion. They do work that very few of us in this chamber could do or would be willing to do. And so I want us to really, I hope in these remaining days of session that we redouble the efforts to find the funding that these nursing homes need to stay afloat, to house our loved ones who may or may not have family close by to help with their care. This is really important stuff. I certainly hope that if that should happen to me and when I'm in my 70s, that my children would come and visit me. My kids, one of them lives fairly close, the other one lives a couple hours away. But I would certainly hope that I would receive the kind of care that my grandmother did by both her family and by the people that worked in that nursing home that cared so much about her. Members, I wish I could vote for this bill, but I'm going to hold off and vote for another bill this year that I hope that will put additional funds into our nursing homes so that the people that work there can be compensated and not want to be enticed to go work at Hobby Lobby or McDonald's even. That they stay there, and because they have a heart for these elderly people, that they stay there and help them live out the remaining days. Thank you.
Further discussion on the repassage of Senate File 2934 is amended by conference. I recognize the member from Olmsted, Representative Quam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm a numbers person, but that's not the reason why we do a lot of the stuff we do here. About a decade ago, the last Thursday of session, I received a call, went to the retiring room, and my mother-in-law had passed away at our house. But she had been around family, and that wasn't as tough of a situation as 2 years later, towards the end of session, I found out my mom had terminal cancer, but she got to spend the last months of her life at home with family. I've got a niece that graduated through through med school, a sister that's a nurse, a niece that's a nurse. We were able to do the care, and she could spend her last time at home. When I was young, I visited the Kenyon nursing home. My great-great-grandfather was there. That's closed now. There are a lot of nursing homes where maybe they don't have family, but they're in with people that they grew up and lived with in the community. And I think that's good for them. I talk a lot about the kids and the future and education because the dreams are there. But we're here with what we got because of what the previous generations did. I've been to Japan and countries in Europe, and they value their older generations because of what they did. And it pains me when we have so many that can't find a home, a nursing. We owe them so much. And they're people. And it saddens me that we haven't given more money to help them because they've done so much for us. Thank you.
Further discussion on the repassage of Senate File 2934 is submitted by conference. I recognize the member for Meeker, Representative Gilman.
All right, thank you, Speaker. Thank you, members. I'm rising tonight to talk about this great committee that I got to be on in Human Services Finance. Grateful that I got to be a part of a lot of great conversations. Again, learning things through a different lens is always important in this process of, bringing policies forward. Thanks to Chair Noor and Sean. I appreciate the work and the effort and getting back to me with answers. Lead New Brindley and Jonathan Cotter have been rock stars, and other veteran members that have served in this committee for years just to gain insight and wisdom. And again, we're talking about lots of dollars that get allocated, again, in places that our side of the aisle right now is standing to talk about a lot about nursing homes. I'll share a quick story about myself. And my interest in nursing homes started when I was real young, and we had a volunteer program called the Yovos in Cokato, Minnesota. And I got to adopt a grandma from the nursing home. So a shout out to Olga, who's been with the Lord for a lot of years. I won't tell you how many, because that might date me. But Olga and I bonded over bingo. And it was a joy to put on my little pink and white striped volunteer uniform so they could identify who the helpers were. And what I learned about serving others at that age, especially when people have at times limited functions, physical functions, not all of their minds are struggling as much as we'd think. And so I learned a lot of things when I was, 12, 13, 14 years old from the wisdom of these hardworking folks that grew up in Minnesota. A lot of farmers where I'm from, farm wives, and there's a lot of farm wives right now, good friends of mine that are taking care of their loved ones, getting the crops in. So shout out to them as well. But I'm talking about this is because I'm nervous. I have a niece right now that's currently working in a nursing home, to see if she wants to become a registered nurse and go into the field. And what they're finding is that instead of helping care for, 10, 12 at night to get them to bed, she may have to do an entire wing. An entire wing, which could be over 20 residents, 20 sweethearts that need extra care. And she is, tired, her back is sore, she's graduating high school in just a couple weeks. And she said, Auntie Dawn, if you could just talk about us that are here showing up and working, it's not because they want to be greedy and they feel like if the wage could go up, there could be more people to help care for the loved ones that are there. And again, I've been doing lots of meetings with different long-term care facilities. Cokato Charitable Trust has been great to visit with and get some insight. Learning more about nonprofit versus for-profit homes can be quite different, and there's a lot of different dynamics around that. So again, I know that there's a lot of things that can happen, and we're gonna go extra innings with lots of different things at play to see where things will finally land. But I just hope that we can think about folks that are caring for our loved ones and to inspire, young people to get into the profession, just like we're trying to do that with other professions and the peace and police officers, our firefighters, those serving. It takes a special person to do that. It takes special people to be here and serve, right? I have friends right now going, how much do you get paid for that job? We probably never thought that we'd experience some of the things that we've experienced the last few months. I sure didn't think I'd be experiencing some of the questioning and some of the different things that I've received towards me online or in person. But that is just what we do. We show up. I'll just leave with one more story. I ended up serving as a, again, I talked about being a YOVO for a little while there, like a couple years, and then I decided to go into that as a job as a high school student, and then as I was going into college, right up till I went to college to become a dental assistant. And I tell you what, when I would leave that place, I knew that every person that I cared for, I treated like my grandma or grandpa. And that was to every detail. And it's not all pretty. It can be stinky and messy and hard, and you might get bit, okay? I never did get bit. Because I would announce, and some people were hard of hearing. They could not maybe see everything, so I would definitely be I learned how to be an excellent communicator. And I believe anybody, if you work in the profession, in a gas station to being a bartender, server, whatever you're doing, a barista, there's skills that people learn when they work with other people to make things more efficient, to make them enjoyable. And I just want to do a huge shout out to the people that are caring for my mother-in-law right now, who is a World War II survivor. She was a prisoner of war in Germany, and she's immigrated here from Germany, and her tenacity and her honesty to me to this day, I might not like to hear everything she says, but the fact that she's got a smile on her face, she's clean, she's cared for, and that they have nurtured her in the little town of Cokato, Minnesota, means a lot to me. And it's not all the same. We're learning here that not everything is the same, from rural to metro to wherever people are at in their situation, and that's beautiful. But I pray that we could just get back to just some compassion and understanding, and I feel like there is a lot of compassion across the other side of the aisle, and that's what's been beautiful about this process. But to get back to negotiating these dollars, because we have not made our seniors a priority. And I'd hate to see more people leave here and have their families leave here and exit here and start their companies other places, because we are not taking care of the ones that live here. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Further discussion, I recognize the member from Meeker, Representative Erdahl.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I think I've mentioned my experience before here, but just to elaborate a little bit, about 6 years ago I had to have knee surgery, knee replacement, and had it on a Friday, and on Monday I was supposed to be checked out of the hospital, go home to be cared for by my wife, but she had been called away because her dad was in St. Cloud in a hospital dying. So on Monday morning, the doctor comes in. He says, well, you can leave. And I say, where am I going and how am I going to get there? And that's how I wound up in the Rice Care Center in Wilmer, to spend a week being cared for by the staff there. And I sympathized with them because they had to take care of me. But after that week, after actually leaving there for part of a day to go to a funeral and being brought back, I certainly came to appreciate even more than I had before what these people have to put up with and what they do for the pay that they get. And I was aware of that as well because my wife, Karen, worked for many years in nursing homes and as a group home worker as well. She no longer does that type of employment, but I learned firsthand, again, what she had to do. And I came home one day, and she was sitting in the living room with tears in her eyes. And I said, what's wrong? She said, well, I was working today, and I was holding a lady's hand, and she died with me holding her hand. And so we need to support these people, support those who are most vulnerable at their most vulnerable time. Now, we need to do more than what is in this bill. And I sincerely hope that in the next few days an opportunity is going to present itself that will enable us to do the more that needs to be done.
Further discussion on the repassage of Senate File 2934 is amended by conference. I recognize the member from Chisago, Representative New Brindley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. I'm sure you will all be shocked to hear what I am going to talk about. I've actually really enjoyed this conversation, and I really appreciate all of the people who have told their stories, and I thought I would add a few stories to the mix. So I also started out, like Representative Gilman, I started out as a volunteer when I was young in a nursing home, and we'd go play bingo with the residents. That's what we would do and help people. And for me, that started my love for our elderly, for our senior citizens. And so one of my first jobs then, I was a dietary aide at a nursing home. And we would help, I would help certainly prepare and serve. And I remember, I can't remember her name. I remember so many people by name. I can see her face. But interestingly, this was a woman who had Alzheimer's. She was not able to speak. She was not able to walk. She was in a wheelchair. But as a young woman, she had been a performer, a vaudeville performer of all things. And while she could no longer speak, she couldn't walk, we would set her in front of a piano, and she could play. It all came back, and it was so fun to watch her play that piano, because she could do virtually nothing else at this point. And at the end, this is the vaudeville part, she would play, and at the end she would always say, "That's all," every time. It was so fun. But she certainly was at a place where, like I said, she was very advanced. She couldn't speak. She was incontinent. She was in a wheelchair. She certainly could not care for herself, and really her loved ones could not care for her at that point. But there was still that bright spot, that little glimmer that when she was at that piano, it all came back. I remember, this was when I was a dietary assistant still. We had a resident, I still remember his name, Tony Katefka. He was 101 years old, and I remember him very distinctly because he was on a diabetic diet, 101 years old, and they were telling him that he couldn't have cookies because he's on this diabetic diet. And my mom happened to work at this nursing home, and her position was, give the man his cookies. He's 101 years old. What's it going to do, kill him? Give him a cookie. So, but I will never forget being, like I said, being in the kitchen, and one day he rolls up. He was in a wheelchair, but he would still shuffle his feet in that wheelchair. So he shuffled that wheelchair over to the door, and he said, "Give me a cookie." And I said, "Tony, you have a cookie. You have a cookie right there." And they were those like wafer cookies with the cream filling. And he said, "These aren't cookies. These are air." I still remember Tony. After high school, that was in high school, when I went to college, I became a nursing assistant. And so I continued in that. And my first nursing assistant job, it was actually at a nursing home, the Good Samaritan home over in New Hope. And there was a man by the name of Harry, and he was so funny. These huge bushy eyebrows. He could speak very, very little at that point, wheelchair bound. And I would look at him and I would say, "How you doing, Harry?" "Good." "What do you need, Harry?" "You." And then he would waggle his eyebrows up and down, these huge bushy eyebrows that he would waggle up and down. And again, Harry was wheelchair bound, incontinent, couldn't speak very much at this point. He needed a level of care beyond what his family could provide for him. Then that was a summer job at that nursing home. I went back to college and continued as a nursing assistant. And I was taking care of a woman, Carol Hardman. Now, interestingly, Carol was on hospice. I had moved into hospice at this point. So all of my patients had an official diagnosis of less than 6 months to live. And Carol was relatively young. She was in her 60s. She was actually, until her diagnosis of breast cancer was still working. And she had a diagnosis of a very aggressive breast cancer. And Carol's problem was actually not that she maybe couldn't have been cared for at home, but she didn't have anyone at home to care for her. She wasn't married. She didn't have children close by. She didn't have those resources. And so she needed to be in a nursing home because there just wasn't another place for her. She didn't have family to care for her. Even though her needs were not quite as high as the others, she couldn't safely care for herself. And so she needed to be in a nursing home. And I still have, to this day, Carol was an amazing seamstress and stitcher. She, similar to my bonkers little plaque, Carol made for me when I got married. She was one of my patients who I worked really closely with when I got married as a young woman. And she made a pillow for me. And she embroidered sort of a floral pattern into a heart. That was sort of her signature. That's what she did for young couples getting married. And Carol Hardman, one of my patients, did that for me. And those are the kind of relationships that we had. I love, Dawn, that you said that you knew when you went home, everyone there knew that you treated them like their grandma or grandpa. And that's what it's like. That's what it's like. And I think of my own grandparents. My grandpa never did have to go into a nursing home. He He had a stroke in his early 70s, and it was pretty severe. And do you know what? My grandma, who was also in her 70s, I don't know why we didn't, I don't know why, like if my family didn't figure out that he needed a wheelchair or what, but my grandma had this old rocking chair, like one of those wood rocking chairs with wood runners on it, and she would push him around that house on the carpet. There was carpet, and she would push him around in that wheelchair that would slide across the carpet. But my grandpa never had to go into a wheelchair because my grandma was there, and you better believe that she was going to take care of him if she could. And she did. She did. However, then when my grandma got older, she was 93 when she passed away. She actually outlived my mother. And for a time when she clearly could no longer live on her own, it was not safe. She almost burned down her house. We hear lots of these kinds of stories. She actually came to live with my family, with my parents for a time. But again, it got to a point where her needs were beyond the care that my family could give. And my mom was a nurse. My mom knew how to give the care, but she physically couldn't do it with my grandma's needs at that point. She had pretty extensive dementia at that point. Again, incontinence, she needed a lot of help with mobility. She just had needs that could not be cared for at home. And so she was in a nursing home for the last several years of her life. And I'm so grateful, Representative Gilman, for the people at that nursing home who treated her like she was their grandma. So it's incredibly frustrating to sit here tonight with a bill before us. And I'm going to say that does virtually nothing for nursing homes still. That $3.9 million is still there, a pittance. Really? Sorry, around this $72 billion budget, that's like couch cushion money. That's literally the change you find in your center console of your car. That's what we're giving to our nursing homes. We've got this $100 million nursing home loan program, which frankly is a little confusing to me. I really thought that we were all on the same page. I really thought that even though we understand that there are financial constraints, we all at least understand the problem. I would think that by now we would all understand that it is a problem that our nursing homes are closing. It's a problem that just in the month of March, senior citizens were told, no, there is no room for you 7,400 times in March alone. I thought we all understood the problem. There seemed to be a consensus that we all wanted to do more. And yet this is what we get. We get a loan program. Just in the last 6 months, an additional 10% of our nursing homes have completely exhausted their reserves. We have a ton of nursing homes across this state who are already done with loans. They cannot take out more loans. A bank will not give them another loan. And clearly, my Democrat counterparts in this chamber don't understand what happens when a business is over-leveraged. You don't take out more loans, you go bankrupt. You file for bankruptcy. That's what happens when you are over-leveraged. I mean, I guess some of you do. Some of you understand that. But when you are over-leveraged in a business, you can't just keep taking out more loans, because all of a sudden you have more debt, you have more payments that you need to make each month than you have money coming in. So to say that this is somehow this great deal, we're giving $100 million to nursing homes, be very clear, we are not. We are not giving 1 penny to nursing homes. And frankly, it's not even $100 million, because we're going to give $10 million of that to the department to administer these loans. 10%. We're going to give $10 million to the department to administer loans that nursing homes cannot use. That's the solution? It's especially infuriating that there is $100 million. There is $100 million at play, which frankly is a lot more money than what went out of this chamber in this bill. So there's $100 million at play, and yet you choose to put it in a program that is unusable by our nursing homes. Why would we do that? For the life of me, I cannot understand why someone in this DFL caucus, I don't know who it is, but this DFL caucus here, this House caucus, sure did a good job rolling over the Senate. It's amazing. They had $125 million in their bill to go to nursing homes. We're down to 100, and it's a loan. But someone in this caucus or in the Department of Human Services is completely unwilling, is 100% no more funding for nursing homes. That's the position. That's the position. I'll tell you what, I cannot wait until we assume our role again as the legislative branch of government. I had really hoped, I had thought that maybe we would be done after the pandemic, that we would assume that role again. But members, what are we doing letting the department tell us, oh, we can't possibly just give them more money? Why not? Guys, we write the laws. We write the laws and tell them to execute the laws. But you're going to let the department tell you no? We couldn't possibly do that. Well, of course they can do that. This is what they do. This is exactly what they do. There's tens of millions of dollars in this bill for grants. It's actually really easy. And yet, you let the department determine whether you're going to actually give this money to nursing homes or whether it has to go into a loan program. And my understanding is that the department might not even administer the loan program. They might use a third party to do that. What? So the department clearly can't do that either. We're going to give them $10 million. We've got $100 million to work with. We're going to give 10 of it to the department for administration, and I guarantee you, I can't wait till we get an accounting of this over the next year or two, but I guarantee you the department will use every penny of that $10 million. They will use every penny of that $10 million while not giving a single loan to a nursing home because they can't use them. They can't use them. And this is at a time when Democrats have turned an $18 billion budget surplus into about $30 billion with their tax increases. With $30 billion to work with over a 40% increase in the size of state government in what we are spending in this next budget. Guys, this is mind-blowing. The best you can do is a loan for the people who are in these nursing homes every day, treating our grandmas and grandpas like they're their grandmas and grandpas. This is the best we can do. It's embarrassing. Do you know that right now across the state, 25% of all nursing home jobs are vacant? 25%. Thank you, Representative Fisher. 25% of these jobs are vacant across the state. So if you've got 5, let's make a nice even number. Let's say if you've got 8, if you need 8 nursing assistants on a shift, you only get 6. That's all you've got. Because they don't exist. The jobs are vacant. And this bill literally does not do a thing to address it. We're going to give them a loan. We're going to, I should say, we're not going to give them a loan. We're going to offer them a loan. Because they can't even use it. They can't even use it. I cannot wait until we, as a House of Representatives, decide that we are going to write the laws. That we are going to instruct the executive branch on how to, on what they are going to execute. The governor can veto, he can sign, but we in here should do the right thing. The governor can choose what he's going to do with it, but in this room, we should do the right thing. But instead, this legislature, for the last 4 years, we're now into our 5th year, we are letting the governor write laws. We are letting the governor tell us, no, we couldn't possibly do that. Because for whatever philosophical reason, we are unwilling to take care of our nursing homes, to fund the people who need this the most. But my goodness, we in this room should do the right thing. We should write laws. And we should write laws in a way that will actually take care of people. Boy, I was really hoping, and in fact, I told our members when this bill came up the first time, you know, I'm not voting no based on what is in this bill. I am voting no based on what is not in this bill. And I'll be honest, I'm really disappointed to see the lack of advocacy for our senior citizens in nursing homes. It just didn't happen. In fact, we screwed them. We're going to let them close. And we're going to let those grandmas and grandpas go with them. We're done. It's done. I wish you would have given me a bill I could vote for. It really wouldn't have been that hard. This was it. This was the item. We needed some money for our nursing homes. It wouldn't have even taken that much. Turn that $100 million into grants, give it to our nursing homes. You'd have a lot more yes votes on this board tonight. But instead, we are offering nursing homes something they can't even use. And they're going to keep closing their doors. And they're going to keep sending those people away. And it's a sad night. I'll be voting no.
Further discussion on Senate File 2934 is amended by conference. I recognize the member from Wright, Representative McDonald.
Mr. Chair, I have a very sad nursing home story too. And it is the fact that the Democrats this year, with the unprecedented $17.5 billion surplus, are not funding our nursing homes adequately enough. That is the sad truth. and probably Trump's most sad stories because it'll affect every single nursing home in the state of Minnesota and our loved ones who are there. Growing government, almost 40%, from a $52 billion two-year budget to close to a $70 billion budget, and not nearly enough for the crisis at hand, which is the nursing homes. That is a very, very sad, sad story. I'll close with this, Mr. Speaker. On our side, as we speak about this very precious and dear institutions in our state that take care of our families, it's all sincere with no hyperbole or no political theater. That's the one thing on our top list that we needed to accomplish this session, was to adequately take care of our nursing homes and those who work there and those who take care of our loved ones. And you failed. The House Democrats failed, the Senate Democrats failed, and Governor Walz failed in adequately supporting financially our nursing homes. That's the truth. That's the sad truth. And we hope and pray to the good Lord above that in the next 2 days as we end, that you can find it in your heart and your budgets to adequately support financially our nursing homes. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
I recognize the member from Candy, Ohio, Representative Baker.
All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. A lot of things have been said. I don't think a lot of them need to be repeated. But I do want to mention a couple things that kind of go a little deeper, and I want to give also some shout-outs to some members that have helped me do some things here, too. There's some good housing supports in the bill. Thank you, Representative Noor, for that. I think that helping some very special places for me up in Douglas County, Crow Wing County, with our Teen Challenge friends, they've got some really important work to do to expand the Teen Challenge opportunities for people that need their supports. I also want to throw out a shout out to Representative Altendorf, who has worked hard to try to get the nursing home funding for the Red Wing nursing home. We were able to get their dollars secured, at least for the first biennium. Do what we can. That's a really special nursing home down in Red Wing, and I really appreciate learning a lot of her work on that issue as well. This 48-hour rule, members, hasn't been talked about yet a lot, but that's a big deal. That's the issue where we have got to find a safe place for folks experiencing a really bad mental health crisis. They're arrested. They don't have the ability to really think clearly for themselves. They've been determined by the state. We got to find them a place, and by law, we have to have 48 hours for that. That's really important that we stick to that. These folks deserve the highest priority to get their help. We didn't really fix it, but we did do some good things to expedite the study group, the work group, to figure out a plan. We talked to a number of sheriffs, county attorneys, others to try to make that work. And again, we didn't put any financial weight on the counties when they have to start moving a patient to a state facility, so we did help out the county. So that was a good move as well. Thank you for that. I'm also really excited about the TEFRA fees being removed. That was a great move. I sat there in shock, right? You saw me in the committee hearings. Where did this come from, right? Representative Hansen, I think that you carried the bill, is that right? No, who carried the bill? I'm not sure who did. Anyway, I'm sorry if I, who was it? Oh, so I'm sorry, I'm not asking a question. I thought I would know. But whoever carried the bill, thank you, because it was important, and I remember sitting there and I was in shock because I know I must have heard it before. It wasn't my first time being on HHS committee, but the stories were very, very impacting on me tonight. So to the families out there that came to us, that shared their stories and their pain, these are families that so loved their children and loved ones, and whether it's a sibling, a child, it was heartbreaking, and I'm so grateful that we were able to get the TEFRA fees completely eliminated in this session, and that's going to be a huge lift off of those families. So good for everybody on that. That's a really good move. I also want to give a big shout out to my friend, Representative Robert Bierman. I know he's visiting over there right now with Chair Liebling on some important stuff, but Representative Bierman, thank you for working with us so well on the OPIP stuff. That's the Opioid Prescribing Improvement Program. And members, a lot of you don't know what that is, but Representative Bierman and I were really working hard on that over a number of meetings with the department, DHS, and this new group we set up a couple years ago when the opioid crisis was completely out of control. The overprescribing was going on. Doctors were not reacting as quickly as they should have been. And we created this project with the department, and they were doing report cards and making sure that folks that were prescribing opioids could see how they compared themselves to other doctors in those fields. And that was an important part then. What we realized recently, though, was it was going too far. DHS was taking too much of a bite out of it. They were making it harder for doctors to properly prescribe opioids. Because, folks, I've said this before, opioids are an important part of medicine if they're done right. And if they're prescribed by people who understand pain, who explain it carefully. And I will tell you, I'm actually really proud of the healthcare systems over the last few years that have really gotten their arms around this. And so the OPIP program, though, they went too far, in my opinion, and they were making it hard for doctors to prescribe properly to some people that were very, very much in good hands with smart doctors that were specialists in this area. And I want to thank the patients that have come forward over the last several years to tell their story, to see Cammie and Laura come to the table recently in their excruciating pain and their intractable pain that they can't do anything about. They can't get relief from surgeries and other things. They are in a world of hurt every single day, and I just can't thank them enough, but I think we got this buttoned down, and it took us a lot of work. DHS did not want to give this up, but we made it a hard move to get rid of any funding in the future. It's going to sunset at the end of next year in December of 24, and we're going to make sure that that is done and over with. The doctors need more ability to taper people down on opioids when they see that appropriately being done that way. So that was a big move. So thank you again, Representative Bierman. And again, my colleague, Representative Frederick, did a lot of stuff with us with the recovery community organizations. We still have work to do there, but we are also working in those areas to do better things. It's important. So stay tuned on that. And what also is not in this bill that I'm very, very happy about is the sunset that left the House floor to end the high prescription licensing fees that we did put in place here a couple years ago. The House wanted to end the sunset. I did not want to end the sunset. The sunset right now is supposed to be completed by the year 2031. I don't think we need to continue to charge pharmaceutical companies extremely high rates. At the time was appropriate, and we have a plan to throttle that down. I'm glad that was removed from this, and we can keep our word of things that we did a couple years ago. We kept our word, and it's something that will still be in place for a number of years, but it'll be sunset when we agreed to sunset it. Again, I think we've heard enough about the nursing homes. That was a hard one to bring back to my caucus. I know that I wanted to support this bill. I think that's the only poison pill there is really just how we are handling our nursing homes. I don't think I need to go on about that, but it was hard to bring that back to my colleagues. It really was. And we talked about that in our conference committee. I begged our chairs not to let us do this. This is not what we need to do. We worked hard to do something different. It just didn't work out. It's a disappointment on this. But overall, again, there are some really good points in this bill. I also, before I close up, I just want to say also, working with the DFL on this committee was a positive experience for me through the duration of this session. It was one of the shining moments that I feel good about, and largely not because you know, Chair Noor and Chair Fisher are such smooth guys and knows what they're doing, and it's your staff. I got to tell you, Sean and Nick did a great job, and they came to me early on in the session and wanted to work with me on certain issues. You guys were really great, and you always kept me in the loop. So thank you for that. But you know what you don't have is you don't have Jonathan Cotter. Jonathan is our guy over here. He's a fabulous guy, and he always kept me in the loop too. And I know that the staff around here is amazing on both sides. So Jonathan, thank you very much for all you do for us as well. Members, again, I wish I could vote for this. I really, really do. I know you care about our seniors. I really know you do. We just need to fight harder. We just need to fight harder. We're not done yet. Let's not quit fighting. Let's pass this. I know you guys are going to pass the bill. I'd like to support it tonight. I know it left the other body with a lot of votes before it went to conference, and it went back to conference, and today it passed with only one Republican vote, which is sad. Tonight, I need to ask members to vote red. We can do better. Let's not give up on this. But again, thank you for including me in this conversation. I look forward to doing more work for our seniors in our nursing homes. But members, thank you very much for allowing me to be a part of this. Thank you.
Further discussion on the repassage of Senate File 2934 is amended by conference. I recognize the member from Ramsey, Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on the conference committee report. I first of all want to thank my colleagues on the other side for sharing their stories tonight and their personal experiences, particularly in the nursing home area. I know that's not easy and that these things can be very painful. So I want to say thank you for putting yourselves out there and allowing us to hear and understand your feelings on that. Also want to say again to Representative Baker, it's been an honor working with you, helping push each other as we put together what I think is a really good bill. And I think some of the things that we really need to focus on here is when we take a look at the bill that we've got before us, and when we take a look at what's in the forecast, we're addressing the needs of our most vulnerable people out here in our state in ways we've never been able to do before. When we take a look at our folks, whether they're in nursing homes, whether they've got disabilities, whether they've got personal care assistance, when you take a look at the dollars going in that we've got in the budget and in the forecast, what we've got on our sheets here, that will be almost $3 billion additional that will be going to help our most vulnerable people being taken care of, whether the seniors or people who've got disabilities. This is a record type of investment that we've not had in the past and we should be proud of. One of the things that I will kind of circle back on is that one of the big things that we have problems with in the human services area is so often that almost all the services are very labor intensive. And so for many years, the people doing this work have not been properly appreciated or properly compensated. And we've heard stories about that tonight when you talk about the nursing home segment. The same thing has existed with our personal care attendants, with our homemakers over the years, where in many instances, they're being paid maybe $13 or $14 an hour. And one of the great things that Chair Noor did is he put out there, we've got to try to get everyone up to the $20 an hour situation. And that's why this is such an expensive bill, because we're getting people up to the point where they're being paid a living wage. One of the big areas that we've heard about tonight is nursing homes. And I want to focus on that a little bit. I had an opportunity to talk to some of the nursing homes where they called me from different parts of the state. I remember being on multiple Zoom calls. And I understand the issue that they're facing out there, that it is a challenge. And some of the things that they mentioned to me is that, number one, they've got two problems. Number one is trying to find the people out there. And number two is making sure that they can pay them more. Our bill goes to helping provide the dollars so that these people can pay more. Number two, most importantly, something that we're doing that's very unique is we're putting dollars in specifically to help bring in workers into our state that we've never done before. Because as we heard from, I believe it was Representative New Brindley, where she was saying there aren't enough people out there to do the jobs. There's a 25% vacancy rate. This haunts us in the entire long-term care situation. And we have on our spreadsheets, we've got over $30 million to create the workforce out there, to help bring the training out there so that we can grow it, because we can put money out there for the wages, but if we don't also at the same time bring in more people, it's not going to happen. And one of the things I'm real proud about is one of the things that we're going to do is we've got a large immigrant population that doesn't always have the documents available to them to be able to work right away. We are providing dollars for the first time to be able to do that so that they can quickly get the work papers that they need to start filling the jobs out there in the long-term care situation. That is really a great move. Going back to the nursing homes, there's some important things that we have to keep in mind, and some of this raised concerns, particularly as I started hearing more as we were in our conference committee and hearing some of the testimony. Last year, we had heard that they needed about $871 million, otherwise they're going to collapse. Well, now this year, I was hearing about $300 million is where they're saying. Well, we know there's critical homes out there. We do know that there are some in crisis. We've got dollars going straight to them. And what I ended up doing when I heard the need out there, I started taking a look at what's going on out there. And right now, in the nation, in nursing homes, when you take a look as a nation on median costs, right now in the country, there are only 5 states that the median cost for a nursing home is higher than ours. Over the last 5 years, our costs have gone up 10%. No other state has gone up that high. The average for the nation for costs going up is 3.25%. And the reason I mention that, because in the nursing home area, when you have a cost, you'll get reimbursed for that cost. And one of the surprising things I found out, not only do they reimburse you for your costs, for your wages that you have to put out there, they also reimburse you for costs that I've not seen in other areas. They reimburse you for depreciation costs that are a non-cash item, but yet the state will. And it's raised questions for me is, we're putting so much money into it. What's going on in the nursing home industry? And this is where we have to take a look. 10 years ago when I started, most of the nursing homes in our state were nonprofit. Today, the vast majority are for-profit. That raises concerns about. It's something that we need to take a look into more. And I think that's one of the great things that Chair Noor has in here that came back, is we've got a nursing rate study. Just take a look at what's going on, because we agree that having to wait up to 21 months to get your dollars that for expenses you have out there is too long. And that's why we came up with the loan program, because this gives us the ability to help make things work. As a person, a finance person in a nonprofit, I've been in the situation where we've had to borrow from the bank. And I'll tell you, anytime I can get a loan with 0 interest, I'm going to take that. And that's one of the things that we're providing that opportunity to help buy time for these folks out there where they can convert loans that are for interest to non-interest, and also gives you a chance. They don't have to pay them back right away. They've got up to 6 years before they can pay them back. Depending when they get the loan, some of them may not have to pay it back until 2035. So we're trying to create that space out there to give us the time to take a look at this, to make sure that the nursing homes that need the dollars will get the dollars, and those in crisis will have dollars immediately available to them. So with that, members, I would ask for a green vote.
Further discussion. I recognize the member from Brown, Representative Torkelson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. We've heard quite a diatribe from across the aisle. We've been talking about nursing homes a lot, and we're not going to stop. A $17.5 billion surplus, raising taxes nearly $10 billion, and we're going to create space for nursing homes so they can take loans when they're already closing, when they've already borrowed all the money they can possibly borrow, and accusing them of being greedy when they're going broke. How can you be greedy when you're going broke? Your response to nursing homes is pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. I don't know how long we have to harangue about this, but we will continue. I assure you, your response is pathetic. Vote red on this bill.
Further discussion to Senate File 2934 is amended by conference. Closing remarks. I recognize the author of the bill, the member from Hennepin, Representative Noor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Members, I just wanted to start by thanking the conference committee members, Chair Hoffman, Senator Ebler, Senator Fatah, Chair Fisher, Representative Baker. I also wanted to thank the amazing staff that we have who have really helped us do the right thing. Liam Monahan, Kyle Raymond, Doug Berg, Sarah Sanderman, Danielle Pugnelli. And I also wanted to thank our CA, Sean Herring, Jonathan Cato on the other side, Kevin Parker in the Senate, and also our CLAs, David Zack, Sebastian Gonzalez Navarro, the page that worked with us, DHS staff, MMB staff, and many other individuals who really shaped this bill. I've heard a lot about the nursing facilities. I think many of the members do not understand the complexity when it comes to value-based reimbursement. It's not simple. That system is broken, meaning that they never anticipated the pandemic, the workforce shortage, the significant inflation. Members of Lord have brought a loan program that was designed to close those gaps. If we could have done what you call grant program. I'll tell you this. The loan program we have here is better than a grant program to those nursing facilities, and I'll explain why. When we give those grants to the nursing facilities, there'll be a clawback, meaning that money will be taken back from the nursing facilities because of the VBR. It's broken. The only way that we could give those resources to the nursing facilities is to put a loan program for those who need the most. I'll give you an example. Right now, nursing facilities are paying at a high interest rate. When you look at the interest rate today, at the Wall Street Journal prime rate, it's 8.25%. What does this program do? It's 0%. Zero. They don't have to pay for 18 months. They don't have to pay a dime for the next 18 months. That closes the gap that they have in the VBR program. It helps them have the resource that they need. And guess what? The beds that are closed right now, the demand that exists, they're able to open those facilities to receive more individuals. That increases the rates that they're going to receive. Members, we should never take away from those nursing facilities by giving them a grant program and then taking it away from them. This resource will be available until 2029. And guess what? If any of those facilities receive funding, at that point, it's another additional 72 months. The resource will be available to them until 2035. And no, we're not done yet. We do have a study to fix the problem that was created in 2015, not by the folks on this side of the aisle, but on the other side. And guess what? The nursing facilities don't want to end the VBR. I could have fixed all this issue by going back to the DWRS model. They said, no, don't do it, because it's not going to work for them. They have a great deal with the value-based reimbursement system. The focus shows $853 million. Is there anything guaranteed? No. But the system that they have is one of the best systems to support those nursing facilities. We have resources up to $90 million and additional resources to bring more workforce to the state so that we can provide and care for the grandma and grandpa. Nobody talked about the elderly waiver program that we're investing $1 billion. No one talked about it. All those assisted living facilities, the memory care facilities, this is a system where you have a nursing facility and also an assisted living. We should never leave that one out. They're earning right now at $13.81 for those who are CNAs and other individuals who are receiving the list. Talk to your assisted living facilities. This is a significant investment. In fact, the floor rate that is in the statute, we had to remove it because we have gone above. We've gone above by investing $1 billion so that those assisted living facilities in your districts will receive the highest rate of reimbursement. Members, this bill is meant to care for those who need the most. Whether you're disabled, whether you need a PCA, whereby we're investing almost another $1 billion in the next 4 years. No one talked about that. You know what? By 2025, if you have worked as a PCA through the SEIU contract that we're ratifying in this bill, you will receive $22.50. That's a historic investment in an area that is much needed to care for the grandma and grandpa in their homes, in their own comfort area. Members, I heard that there are nursing facilities that are closing in greater Minnesota, and guess what? The Critical Access Nursing Facility Fund is available to them immediately as soon as July, the next fiscal year starts. No nursing facilities should close because they don't have the resources. The other challenges that we're experiencing, that people are going outside their district, it's another story. But this bill, we made sure that no one is left out. And no one was ever left out in this bill. To that extent, I just wanted to say, members, do not vote against grandma and grandpa. Members, do not vote against those individuals with disability who are asking us to support them. Members, look at this bill and tell me what is not in there that cannot support those who need the most. Think twice, and you go tell your district that you voted against ICFDD when the Greater Minnesota individuals came to us and said we are earning $148 per diem per day. And guess what? We listened. We increased the rates to $275 per day plus inflation. That was never asked for. They asked less than that. But we had to make sure that we help everyone across the state. This is our moment. This is our moment to stand up for those who need the most. This is a generational investment. This is a transformative bill. Members, please vote green.
The clerk will take the roll. Members, please take your conversations off of the House floor. Will the clerk please call the name of the member who is voting remotely pursuant to House Rule 1001?
Katiza Watun.
Katiza Watun, aye.
Katiza Watun, aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 71 ayes and 61 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and its title agreed to. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there's no objection, we will take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail. Announcements. I recognize the member from Hennepin, the Majority Leader, Representative Long.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 11 a.m. Saturday, May 20th, 2023.
Representative Long moves, when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 11 a.m. Saturday, May 19th, 2023. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. No. The motion prevails. I recognize the member from Brown, Representative Torkelson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Majority Leader stand for a question?
He will yield for a question. Representative Torkelson.
Thank you. Representative Long, you've informed us we're coming back tomorrow. Can you at least guarantee that we might have our Sunday morning available to worship as we choose?
I recognize the member from Hennepin, the Majority Leader, Representative Long.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the question. I do not believe that we will plan to come in early on Sunday. I don't know exactly what time we would be coming in, but we will certainly keep that in mind when we're scheduling time.
Representative Torkelson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you'll yield for another question.
He will yield. Representative Torkelson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Long, so it does sound like, however, we're probably coming in on Sunday. Are we coming in on Sunday?
Representative Long.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the question, Representative Torkelson. To be determined, we have two bills that may be available tomorrow, the tax bill and the transportation bill. We don't know whether we'll be able to get through both of those bills tomorrow, but any cooperation would greatly enhance our ability to not come in on Sunday.
Representative Torkelson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If Representative Long would yield for one more question.
He will yield for one more question. Representative Torkelson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Long, I believe that our cooperation might be for sale at the right price. Are you willing to make an offer?
Representative Long.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am. There's a great big bucket of candy I have ready for you at the front desk.
Representative Long moves, or Representative Long, the member from Hennepin, the Majority Leader, Representative Long.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Long moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, please say no. The motion prevails and the House stands adjourned until 11 a.m. Saturday, May 19th, 2023.